Motion Analysis, and we are the world's leader in motion capture systems. We make systems and we sell them all over the world to studios that use motion capture. And we're showing something new here today. We're actually integrating motion capture with a moving camera. So if you can see this camera right here, we have markers on the top of it. So it moves and it drives the background to move just like he's in the virtual world. So this is a way to take handheld cameras into live virtual environments.
So it's kind of tracking the camera motion.
So as he's moving, at the same time that we're tracking the movement of the performers, Jeff here is moving the camera that's being tracked. So the point of view that's being rendered is based on the lens position of this camera, where you can take these properties of real-world productions like moving handheld cameras, which of course you're familiar with, Alan.
Sure, yeah.
And using this technique, it gives you like a flying carpet cameraman's ability to bring your camera into the virtual environment. We can bring the handheld camera aesthetic that's usually missing from CG productions. And with this technique, it can be added to any kind of CG production, in this case real time. Here's a project we've been working on with the Jim Henson Company, where we can fly around virtual cameras in real time in a live production space with multiple characters, and a director can cut between all three virtual camera points of view and cut it just like a live television production is cut.
Wow.
So our body talent drives the characters with the body rig, and the puppeteers drive the facial performance with a puppeteering rig that's normally used to drive Muppets.
Wow.
Or other kinds of puppet-based creatures. So this is what we get in live when we're viewing it in real time, and in many cases we don't even have to touch the data to go right in the post. This is one of the leading puppeteers. So what this does is it brings improvisation into the CG production environment. Improvisation is a great thing to have on your creative palette when you're producing. But when you're doing CG productions, that notion of improvisation does not really come into play. There's usually a hard script that's kept to, and the animators do their best to make the animation look like exactly what's in the script. But we all know some of the best content comes from improvisation. So what we're really doing here at Motion Analysis is attempting to enable creators to take the same type of properties they have when they're producing in real productions and live shoots and bring that into the CG production environment. And we're real proud of that aspect of it. Yeah, what happens is the cameras are coupled with infrared ring lights, and they're near infrared actually, and those near infrared ring lights act like a spotlight for each camera, and the markers that the performers are wearing have retro-reflective tape on there, which are the same kind of tape that's used on lane markers on a highway or the highway signs, so that when your headlights hit them, it illuminates 100% of the light back at your eyes so you can see these things at night. Well, in the same way, these little markers reflect the light like a mirror right back into the lens of the camera. And because we know the position of each of those cameras very precisely, it's very easy then for the system to calculate the exact centroid of each of those spherical markers to within sub-millimeter accuracy. So that's how the magic happens.
How is this being marketed? Is this a service or a product?
Well, it's a good question. We have two divisions of the company at Motion Analysis. The product division sells these systems around the world to studios who want to have their own MoCap system in their own studio. And then in addition to that, we have a service bureau in Hollywood where we do motion capture services for those types of studios and productions that don't have their own motion capture system. And so we can do a day's worth of motion capture, a week, a month, whatever it might be that fits the project needs. We have animation production, which is film, video, games, television. Then we have industrial applications and military, which is simulation, shared VR environments, and human factors and ergonomics. And then the third area of application is biomechanical, which is things like human performance, ergonomics, sports, performance analysis, gait analysis. They're doing a lot of work where they might have like a child with cerebral palsy who walks with an abnormality, and then they have to do a surgery on them to plan how to make their gait better. So they'll do a full gait analysis and actually study exactly how the person is walking, and then be able to plan the surgery accordingly and optimize the final outcome of the surgery so that the person can have the best chance at walking as close to normal as possible. So it's a very significant tool in that side on the medical side. Yeah, when these systems first entered the market, they were in the $400,000 or $500,000 range for a starter system. Now a starter system is more like closer to 100,000, and the higher end systems are in that range that the starter systems used to be in. So
what about this setup you have here, this portable, is this thing?
we have 16 Eagle 4 cameras here, which are 4 megapixel cameras. And if you had your own studio where you had 16 of the cameras, you could expand this out and have probably a stage that's almost twice this big for these amount of cameras. So because it's in a trade show situation, it's not a great analogy to talk about this system in specifically. But a system that would be of this stage would probably be able to be run with about 8 cameras. And with those 8 cameras, you could do 2 performers like we're doing now. And that would be like a $100,000 range.
You ever see any interface between this and, say, something like Second Life?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, one of our clients is a massively multiplayer online role-playing game developer, and they just bought a system, and they now currently go from the motion capture stage to their game engine in about 10 minutes time, and they're putting the final finishing touches now on a streaming protocol that will take it from the stage live into the game engine. They could have maybe a stage at their offices where they could have guests come in, get in the suit, inhabit an avatar, and while all the other people in Second Life are controlling their avatars through their mouse, one or more people can be on the stage doing higher resolution control of their own avatars in all live custom kind of movement and driving that into the scene. So maybe it could be a musician doing a concert, it could be a speaker doing a presentation, whatever it might be. So it's basically what it comes down to. It's just a higher fidelity means of controlling your avatar. Actually, Business Week just did an article 2 weeks ago. The cover story was about how motion capture is now enabling what they're calling VR 2.0, kind of the second revolution of VR, and how motion capture is kind of the big enabler for that. In the industrial arena, there's a lot of new kind of things coming on. The big companies are finally coming to realize that if you can get a mastery of this virtual reality technology and use it in your virtual prototyping, that there's loads of money to be saved. And that's really the killer app right now, is virtual prototyping in the design of large, complex, mechanical systems. The first time around with MoCap, there were things like sensors on data gloves, and your hand would go into the virtual environment, but your full body maybe wouldn't. But now what they're doing is companies like Bell Helicopter and companies like John Deere, for example, are having these large virtual reality design worlds where they might be designing a new engine, a jet, a new tractor, whatever it might be, and they can have engineers from a variety of remote locations in their own motion capture systems so that they can step into the virtual environment and communicate with other engineers who are in other remote locations, and they can do things like point at things they're talking about and discuss a prototype design without having to build the physical prototype. And one of the companies that said in the article had saved somewhere in essence of, I think it was 50 million or 100 million on not having to build a regular prototype that they normally spend that kind of money on in the prototype building stage and development stage.
I think you could do a fairly quick turnaround on animation shows.
Yes.
This way, right? 3D shows.
Yeah.
How about 3D displays for motion environments?
Well, there's a lot of advances going on in things like auto-stereoscopic displays, where you can just walk by a public location and without having to wear any glasses or put any kind of headgear on, you can see a full stereo display. And it would be nice to think of a live character that could be displayed in that way. kind of like in the movie The Time Machine, where they had the kind of futuristic look at, I think it was New York Public Library, where they had a live 3D photorealistic character that was virtual, but completely interacted with you like Google, where you could ask it any question and it would give you back the answer real quickly.
So you got spontaneous improv, you get feedback from the audience, all that good stuff.
Exactly.
Nice.
It's also a way you can do live events. You can entertain live crowds with CG characters. That's been done to a limited extent in the past, but
Like virtual Mark Twain kind of.
right, exactly.
From photorealistic CG characters.
Well, we have photorealistic CG characters currently. I mean, Gollum was a CG character.
On real time.
He was.
I mean, in real time.
Well, it's
A couple years.
you can do high fidelity real time characters, but photorealistic is a term that is difficult to achieve still in real time.
Yeah.
It's difficult to achieve in non-real time depending on the level of photorealism.
Yeah, but we're used to Pixar level productions,
right,
like that, right? So.
Right, but they don't go for photorealism. They dial it back so it's more stylistic.
Yeah.
So really, so stylistic is going to come before photorealism.
Yeah, stylism is much easier to do in real time.
Yeah.
You're kind of the system and the tracking allows you to magically be put into the virtual environment. So it's kind of like crawling into a VR world where everybody gets to go in there and have the properties of like being in VR, but have it come to bear on a traditional kind of production. Andy Serkis is now becoming kind of like the poster child for performance animation, having done King Kong and having done Gollum for Lord of the Rings.
Yes, he's the man.
He's now directing. Peter Jackson's just done his first video game called Heavenly Sword, and Andy is the animation director on that, in addition to being one of the performers.
Wow, it's great. We are becoming the machine.